Hey, what's up, YouTube? This could really become a thing here. I like the way this camera is set up, which, believe it or not, it is resting on a sewing machine. Okay, so if you're wondering why it looks a little different, it's because if I turn that light on, you can tell that this is a sewing machine. Okay, so I have the sewing machine out, and I am actually making masks so that I can actually leave the house. And so can my dad, now that I have a few made out of his old shirts. You can't find them anywhere, the actual hospital mask. But, in order to feel like you have some protection, there are those that I made, and I really don't like doing it. It's not the most fun project in the world, but, it has to be done. So, what I want to talk about today, and I hope this video is not interrupted by him coming home, is I'm going to title this Babies Don't Last, and I hope it doesn't end up being a really long one. Okay, and I have a little bit of show and tell. Okay, first of all, I had a very SHITTY Easter. Okay, but I did go out and buy a few things that pertain to Easter. And no, this little bunny baby did not come in this yellow plastic egg, but I think he goes well in it. And it's so cute to see this little baby coming out of the egg. Well, the egg actually contained M&Ms, but there isn't much left of Easter, but whatever there is, I'm sure gonna buy it. So yeah, the baby is actually from a few years ago. I don't know who made that, but I've kept it nonetheless. The other thing I want to show is this very cute hollow plastic baby. He's kind of, well, he's a little bit shorter than a Kelly doll, but fatter. I think the date on him is 1976, of all things. And he comes from a series in which there were mostly girls called the Pee-wees. And they were made out of a really cheap hollow plastic. Like, this is so lightweight that it could almost fly away on a helium balloon. So yeah, this doll used to have long red hair, but she's lucky to have any hair. It was so tangled that I had to put some fabric softener in it. And I probably should have kept putting more and more, but I just thought enough was enough. But yeah, she had some really bad tangled up red hair, and I repainted her eyes green and her lips red. But so yeah, smells so good. And I even repainted this little guy. He had some paint coming off of his blue eyes, and his lips had turned yellow over the years. But 1976 means that those dolls are technically older than I am. So, that's pretty weird. I mean, it feels strange to know that these dolls were manufactured at a time when I would have been -7, so to speak. Meaning I wouldn't be born for another 7 years. So yeah, my parents, I don't think, were even married at the time. But, so that's a little bit of show and tell. And like I say, the title of the video is Babies Don't Last, okay, or Real Babies Don't Last. And so, case in point, that's what I mean. You think I'm crazy and I belong in the nut house because I like to have all these dolls, but yet I have no interest in having a real baby and never have. Well, the thing about dolls and cartoons and fictional babies, or children, basically, is the fact that unlike the real deal, not only did I not have to suffer 9 months to have the likes of them in my life, and I'm not even going to get started about the lack of noise and tearing up my things and how they don't have a bladder and a GI tract, so guess what they don't actually need. And that's why it's made out of a thin piece of cloth. So basically, and of course she's got a pink one, but Um, the thing about these silly dolls that I get made fun of for caring about or collecting or having, you know, and doing anything but shove in an attic, which we don't even have an attic. But the thing about these dolls, is that just like the Rugrats, they will be every bit as much of a baby if they're still around 10 years from now as they were back in 1976 when they were first manufactured, when I wouldn't even exist for another 7 years. Okay? And it's like that with everything, you know? Um, I mean, for example, like, here's another bit of show and tell. This doll, his name is Pitahawk, of all things, or however you pronounce that, Pitohok. And he's kind of a little Eskimo boy that I made. Now, he probably didn't look like that in the actual story. And then this girl, I call her Upik, Upik. And the reason it was so important for me to have Eskimo dolls is because I used to be obsessed with Alaska. Like during the spring of my 5th grade year, which is, wow, 25 years ago, the spring of 95, like around the time I got my very first period, my obsession was Alaska because we had studied about it in school. We read books like this Long Claws by James Houston, I think is his name. And that's where this little character comes from. His name is Pitahawk, like I say, Pitohok. I couldn't make that up if I wanted to. But I just became obsessed with Alaska and, wondering how very different their world is from ours, considering how cold it is and all that. What can they do that we also do, and what can't they do because it's so cold, was kind of the obsession. Just like I became obsessed with Australia from watching The Rescuers Down Under, which I've already talked about with the Cody doll. So yeah, I just have all these dolls, and when I think about, I'm not exactly sure how old this character is supposed to be, but let's say he's roughly about 10 or 11, like maybe the age of my classmates at the time, because obviously we were reading about it, and among other books about Alaska, which is how I became obsessed with it. So if he would have been like maybe 10 or 11 at the time, and let's say he would have, well, I didn't make the doll at the time, I made it many years later, but let's say I would have had a doll of him, and he would have aged like a real person. Well, by now, he would be a man in my age group. And, well, he looked like a man. He wouldn't be a little boy anymore. And it's like that with all these fictional babies. If they were real people, there wouldn't be anything like what they were at the time. And when you think about it, the very first Rugrats episode, dates all the way back to 1991. And the movie that I'm obsessed with, Rugrats Go Wild, was in theaters 12 years later. So, think about how much someone changes in 12 years, especially if they're a baby. Well, that's why they created that whole spin-off series that I hated called All Grown Up or All Grown Ugly. They just would have been totally different. But because they were voiced by adults is how they were able to retain their voice and their looks and all that. But yeah, so what I'm saying is real babies don't last. All these idiots complaining about potty training, which is always a very sore subject with me. It's something very controversial and sickening with me. It makes me want to throw up. Just the word potty training. Because people have varying definitions as to what exactly that means. Mine being on the extreme end of you have to be exactly like an adult and never crap your pants, because people who crap their pants, I don't care if they're 30 years old, they are not potty trained, okay? If you crap your pants, you are not potty trained. I don't care if you're a big, strong, military type bodybuilder of a man and you shart all the time, you're not potty trained. You're not toilet trained, okay? Potty trained people do not ever crap their pants. I don't care what anybody says. I don't crap my pants, and neither does anyone who is toilet trained. And someone can become untoilet trained. You could be trained for like 50, 60 years. And if you're an old person in diapers, well, you have become untrained, okay? That's the way I define it. So yeah, and I hope my parents don't ever get that way. So yeah, basically that's the way I feel about it, and it's just, it just makes me so angry, when these people complain about that, about their children. I mean, it's not that I think they should be happy about it. It's just the fact that I know, from being in my 30s, just how quickly time flies. I mean, this date a year ago just feels like yesterday. In fact, I wish it were, with everything that's going on. But, I just happen to know from the experience of being 36, almost 37, that time really does fly. And, real babies don't last. And so all these people that have tried to make me feel like an evil person all my life, which I hate that word, like a horrible monster or something because I don't want to have any babies. Well, what they're not considering is, just like I said, the fact that babies do not stay that way. Okay? I don't care how cute they are, when they're little. Because, I mean, even if, I liked babies enough to want one, well, guess what? They don't stay a baby, and especially a male. I mean, I would certainly not want to be raising, a little white guy, which everyone would expect me to date only white men. Yeah, I would just feel like I don't know how to explain it, like I'm part of the problem, not the solution. It would just be a mind F, I'm not going to say the word that rhymes with duck, for me to watch this child go through the physical changes, especially the voice change, which I have so desperately wanted since I myself was 15. It would just be, it would just be so hard on me to have to witness that, my own child, getting to do the things that I would have wanted to do as a child, or, going through the changes that I should have had instead of a period and breast development, all because he's male. And I just could never wrap my mind around that and could never be okay with it. So yeah, babies don't last, and I really get sick of hearing that I should have had one.